This is not cute, you entitled brat. Oh my goodness, this is giving Bridgerton. I didn't like some of the things that you would say. You're being so stubborn. Why was I upset at him? Don't blame me. Hey guys, and welcome to another review with Shelly, guys. And this is my 8th book review of the year. So we're getting there, guys. Shelly's road to 100 books in 2023 is getting there. We're making progress. And I'm actually very happy to be reviewing this book because it is one of the books that has been on my TBR for a while, and it's been on my shelf for even longer. And to finally be tackling some of these books that I've had for ages, it's just making me happy because I feel like I'm doing something, okay? I feel like I'm not just buying books and collecting books and not reading, which it starts feeling like that when you do read, but then you have more books than you read, and so it's just like, am I reading? So I'm really happy to have gone through this book. I'm even upset at myself because it's one of those books where you read them and then you just go, I should have read you sooner because I enjoyed you so much. So I am so happy to be getting into this book with you. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so the 8th book, which I read in 2023 is, and we're doing this again, guys. We're getting through our drum roll. Was that worse? That was worse, but it doesn't matter. It was The Winner's Curse by Marie Rutkoski. I'm trying. It's Rutkoski. It's really hard to pronounce, but yeah, it's by Marie Rutkoski. I think that's the best that I could do. And it is a YA fiction book, guys. YA dystopian book is better. But I was really happy to read this book because YA was really the genre that really kind of pulled me into reading, and to go back to the genre that kind of started it all just felt good. And I love that it was this book that really got me back into YA because it reminded me that YA is so good. It really just reminded me that YA is elite. And it's actually like a paramilitary, I don't know why, yeah, it's actually a military YA book. And so that reminded me of like Red Queen, which was another one of the books that really like got me into reading. So yeah, Red Queen was like that book for me. And to come from Red Queen and the selection and to not have read this book when I was in that era of reading, it feels like a crime. But yeah, this book was good to me. It was good. Okay, so this book is about a girl named Kestrel, and she lives in this colony. So basically, the empire that she's living in, you know, they're one of the most powerful empires, especially when it comes to war. And then they defeated this country, and so they took it as a colony. And so they took their houses, you know, all of their land, and the people who lived there, who they didn't kill, they made into their slaves. And it's not like, oh, they made them into like people who served them and stuff like that. No, they made them into slaves. As in, they do not treat these people with any dignity. These people don't have any rights. They're renamed. Like, this is like, I'm just like, ooh, this is not cute. Okay, guys, you won. Yeah, how about you just make them pay taxes? Okay, this was a bit too much. But yeah, she lives in this colony, and she is a really high-ranking general's daughter. Like, her dad is like the general who will bring victories to that country. And so, like, everyone knows who she is, and everyone's expecting for her to, like, you know, follow after his footsteps. Because in this world, when you become of age, I think it's 18, you either, as a girl anyway, you either have to get married or you have to join the army. I liked that, obviously, like, the option of joining the army is there, but I don't like the fact that, you know, you have to do something when you get to that age as a girl. I was just like, and I don't like that the alternative was marriage. I was just like, so you guys still have a bit of sexism in there. Yeah, so her name is Kestrel, and so she's the general's daughter, and she's just living life. You know, she has a good life, and one day she's out and, you know, going out and about in town with her best friend, and she comes about this auction, this slave auction, and then she sees the slave about to be sold, and her heart kind of like stops. She's just like, she can't tear her eyes away, And then she buys him on impulse. She's just like, you know what, maybe like the best I can do for him is like save him from the rest of these people who are really just betting on him because they see him as an object and not as a human, and are probably going to treat him and mistreat him. Going to just mistreat him and treat him badly. So she buys him on a whim, and she pays like an obscene price for him, which is where the name of the book comes from, because it's known as the winner's curse. When you know, someone who wins an auction realizes that they paid a bad price for the you know, what they bought. Like, you know, you just paid a bad price, like the winner's curse. And so basically she buys this young boy who's basically the same age as her, and this is where things get complicated. So the young boy is named Aaron, and he has a grudge against them. Obviously he's one of the slaves, so he would never like the empire anyway, but then he has a deep-rooted grudge. And so while she is really just like, she thought she was doing something good, he's just like, oh, she doesn't even see, like, you know, what she's doing. And basically the way the story goes is that, like, you know, they actually end up like developing a friendly relationship, even though Aaron starts out like properly hating her at the beginning. They develop like a friendly relationship because, you know, she's just like, he's someone who will challenge me, and he's someone who will not lie to me. He'll tell me the truth of the matter, and he'll tell me how he sees it. So she's like, she's living this like, you know, prissy life, and she wants that, you know, she wants someone who won't just tell her what she wants to hear. And so, like, even though he's just like, you entitled brat, you just want something to, like, you know, get you out of your status quo, you know, she is his master, so he has to do it. And he does do it for, he does it for another reason as well. While in her house, he's plotting a secret rebellion, and she doesn't know. And so she unwittingly is helping him, and it gets twisted from there. So this book, it did it for me. I absolutely loved it. Now let's just go through a few of the like points in this book that I'm just like, you stood out, and you made this book. So the fact that there were multiple POVs in third person was interesting to me. As in, like, there would be one POV, it'd be first person, it would be Kestrel speaking, and then it would switch to third person, and I'm just like, okay. Like, I know books have done it before, but I feel like for this book specifically, it worked really well, because we went from first person Kestrel, first person Aaron, third person either of them. And so bouncing back from those different like viewpoints made the story so much better. Because like for first person Kestrel, obviously she's saying, you know, how she sees the world, how things are going on. And then you switch from like, you know, how Aaron is seeing her, how he's viewing her. But then we see the third person of like, you know, an outside viewpoint of like things that they're doing that they're not even aware of, like little emotions, or, you know, feelings that, you know, they're not even going to admit to. So it was such a good balance between like those like viewpoints. Like the mix, I think, worked perfectly for this book. So I had to, like, I was just like, I'm gonna give you props for that one. And I mentioned this earlier, but I liked how women were obviously allowed in the military. You know, they were given that position, because in a world where, you know, you expect, you know, in a world where they're like treating women like, you know, just wives and stuff like that, I'm just like, oh, I don't expect you to have any good parts of you. So I'm just like, the fact that they allowed women in the army, I'm just like, yes, but I'm just like, you took a step forward and then you took a step back. So it's not like we've moved, because yes, they can join the military, but then they either join the military or they become a wife. Those are their options. I'm just like, okay. And if they're going into town to be unaccompanied as a noble lady, like that Kestrel was, that wasn't allowed. You know, I was just like, oh my goodness. It was giving period drama as well, because like the women who were wives, all they did with their day was just go to get together, have dinner parties, have day parties, and just gossip. I'm just like, this is giving Bridgerton. So that part of the world I wasn't too interested in, but I like that they were given the option to like be like, you know, just badass military women if they so chose, but so many of them did not. So there's that. There's, you know, still that little bit of misogyny in there, still a little bit of sexism in there, but, you know, we made progress. But obviously it worked well for the book, because it kind of helped to frame and shape, you know, the world that we're in. It helped me to see, okay, so we live in a world where it's a military world, and the military rules everything, and it's so much so that they even allow women in their ranks, but there is still a bit of sexism where women are still viewed as, you know, people who, you know, you have to be protected. You know, if you're going into town as a noble lady, you have to have someone with you. You know, you have to choose to be a wife if you're not going to be in the military. There's no other option. So it was like, okay, great framing the world that we're living in. I didn't like some of the things that, you know, in that world, but at least I can see it. So good world building. Another part of this book that I like is aspects that they included in the book that weren't really necessary, but they added to the world building, and they just added to helping me understand the world and just help me to see better. Like they added like fashion. Like it was like a big small part of the book, like, you know, how they dressed and like just really eloquent descriptions of their dressing styles. I'm like, this is lovely. I would love to see this incorporated into a movie, because I'm just like, first of all, you look stunning. And I could really see it in my head. I'm just like, you look stunning. And also, like the small side plot of music, I think when you add little plots like that, it adds to the book. So in the slave auction, one of the things that they mentioned is that Aaron, he can sing. They didn't call him Aaron, but they're just like, the slave boy can sing. And Kestrel, one of the things that she wants to do that she's not allowed to do, she just wants to play music. She just wants to spend her life enjoying her music, playing her music, like being a musician and writing music and composing. But like I said, her choices are wife or army. And so when she heard that, you know, he sings, that was one of those things that was just like, okay, I have to get him. Even though she wanted to save him, it like, you know, it spurred her actual impulse to buy him. And so like just that little trinket, you know, of the plot, you know, and the fact that it keeps coming up, and it's one of the things that helps them bond in the book, Aaron and Kestrel. Like just those little bits, you know, little trinkets that you throw in a book, little kernels that you throw in a book to help move the story along is good, because it's not like a major plot point, but it's something that can really probably make the book or break the book, or it'll be something that happens that's just like a music note is played and you're just like, this is going to make or break a character. So it's one of those plot points that you're just like, you're important, but you're not like integral, but you're important. So I love that. I love how they incorporate those like two aspects, the fashion and the music, into the plot and the storyline. Also, with the characters, every character that is like really just, okay, every character is lovable in their own way, except one. There is one person who I don't care. I don't like you. And the thing is, he wasn't even the main villain. It's just, I don't like you. Oh, actually, no, there were two. There were two of them. But like the second character, he started out as, I might like you, and then he ended up, I don't like you. But what I mean, like every character is lovable. I mean, like take Aaron. Aaron, at the beginning, I was just like, I understand his circumstances. I understand the hate that he holds in his heart because he has suffered, you know, because of, you know, Kestrel's people. But I was just like, ooh, you're being so stubborn. At points in times, I'm just like, you're being stubborn. But then, you know what I noticed and what I loved about what this book did is that it made me realize the biases that books place in you. Because I was upset at Aaron at the beginning, saying, you're being so stubborn. She did this because she felt bad, and, you know, it's not like she herself is a bad person. Why are you being so mean, you know, when she just shows an act of kindness? But I'm just like, Shelly, he's a slave. And she bought him because she had the right to buy him. And she thinks that, you know, the pity that she's showing him is a kindness, when really, let's be real, girl, it was pity. And I realized that the reason I was upset at Aaron is because the book introduces me to Kestrel first, from her viewpoint first, and just the way that she lives and the fact that she's not a bad person. And so when I get introduced to Aaron, who is just harboring so many like bad emotions and so much ill will towards Kestrel and her people, I'm just introduced to him being a negative person. I'm just introduced to him in a negative light. And so my brain can't help but to frame him as the bad guy immediately. But then when you think about it, you're just like, first of all, no. Aaron is hurting. He's in pain. And if he's hesitant to trust her, that's for good reason. If he's bearing ill will towards her, it's for good reason. And I was just like, wow, the way that you frame characters in a book, or the way that you frame activities in a book or scenes in a book, really is so important. Because why was I upset at him? He had every right to be upset and angry and like mistrustful of her. Like, she didn't do anything to earn his trust. You just bought me at a slave auction as a slave. And then when I say something you don't like, you throw a fit. or you throw around your power over me because you can. And then I was just like, and I was upset at you. And I found it hard to like you at the beginning because of that. And then I had to stop myself into like sensible behavior. So I like that this book challenged me in that way, like making me realize that no. The framing of characters has an effect, but you really just have to think for yourself who's in the right here. And guys, I was shook. I was like, wow, Shelley. Yes, you got some biases of your own, but the biases were ingrained in me because, like, from the beginning of the book. It wasn't my fault, and I snapped out of it. So you know what? Don't blame me, guys. Don't blame me. It's not my fault. But I love the plot progression of the book, and I love the development, how their relationship develops, because obviously, like, they are in close proximity to each other because he's a slave in her house, and they both have strong emotions towards one another, whether that is positive or negative. But because of like the circumstances surrounding like their relationship and like, you know, the country that they're in, emotions can't help but get tangled up. But they're on opposite sides, obviously, and I think that was such a like amazing plot point to me, because you're going to get to a point where your conflicting allegiances, someone's going to have to make a choice, and choices were made, and consequences are real. And so I'm very, very excited to hit the ground running with the second book, because choices were made, consequences arose from those choices, more choices were made, and more consequences were had. So guys, this book, I gave it a 4-star. And I gave it a 4-star because 5 stars are really hard to come by with me. So if I give a book a 5-star, just know I really, really thought about it. Why I didn't give it a 5-star review is because this book is slow paced. Like, the most it gets to is medium pace, as like it's slow. But let me explain. I actually did like the slow pace of the book, because this book, with everything, with the way that the relationship was forming, with the way the plot was unraveling, with the way the secrets were just revealing themselves, you kind of wanted to pace yourself. You wanted to like see everything play out. So in that sense, I didn't mind the slow pacing. But at the same time, I'm just like, wow, I like an action book and there wasn't much action. It was like, this is like a psychological YA dystopian. And I was just like, okay, I kind of like it. And the romance, I think, the romance that was part of it and like crept into it, I was like, unnecessary. I mean, it made for a great plot. Let's not lie. It's not unnecessary. But I think, okay, so you substituted action for romance. I'm going to have to dock you a point. I'm sorry. And like I said, there were just likable parts of the book. Like, you know, the sexism, I was just like, It was necessary for the world that we were building. I just didn't like it. So I'm docking you a point. But yeah, it's a good book, 4-star, and I'm very excited to read the second and third book of the series, because I really think it is going to be fun. But yeah, when I finally do tune in, there will be reviews of those. But yeah, tune in for my next review as well, because that is coming very, very soon, and I'll be excited to see you guys. So I hope you have a good day. I hope you enjoyed this review. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye!